about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right. We are back at Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So is there any good news? I mean, after this weekend, any good news coming? This is good news. And I know it kind of surrounds a very serious topic, but the feds have foiled a terrorist plot that was supposed to happen on New Year's Eve in Southern California. So that's really good news. I mean, that's really, really good news. Sadly, though, it reminds us of how disgusting people can be and the horrific murder that happened in New Orleans last year. If you remember, 42-year-old Shamsud Dean Jabbar rammed a pickup truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street on New Year's Eve, 3:15 a.m. On January 1 in New Orleans, exited the truck, then engaged in a shootout with police before being fatally shot. Sadly, before he dies, he took 14 victims with him, 57 others injured, including 2 police officers who were shot. And that reminded us that even on New Year's Eve, which I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, so they're always, preparing. They're always, because we have the Strip and all the fireworks shows. And I mean, we just have, tourists from all over the world coming New Year's Eve. It's like an amazing celebration, and it's amazing. Just hard to find a place to pee, though. Just be prepared. But it reminded us that, look, even on New Year's Eve at 3:15 in the morning, somebody might want to run you down and shoot you. Well, the good news is a terror plot was planned in SoCal, and the FBI thwarted it. 4 people have been arrested in connection with this alleged terrorism plot. They were planning to bomb 5 different targets in L.A. County and Orange County, according to federal authorities. The 4 defendants were arrested in Lucerne Valley and San Bernardino County, were allegedly part of an offshoot of a pro-Palestinian group called Turtle Island Liberation Front. We're being told that the man who killed 14 people last New Year's Eve and injured many more was also radicalized and involved in an Islamic terror attack. So this apparently is the Turtle Island Liberation Front, a pro-Palestinian group. They arrested Audrey Carroll, Zachary Aaron Page, Dante Gaffield, and Tina Lay, ranging anywhere from 24 to 41 years old. They have been charged with conspiracy, possession of an unregistered destructive device. There's supposed to be possibly a 5th individual believed to be connected to the same extremist group. They were arrested in New Orleans for allegedly planning a separate attack. So what that means is this isn't just isolated to Southern California. There might have been another attack planned in New Orleans, and then who knows where else. So the suspects were allegedly about to test the explosives that they were going to be using on coordinated attacks on targets throughout the region. This is according to First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley. And the group also allegedly planned to target ICE agents and vehicles with pipe bombs. He said that the group obtained bomb-making materials but were arrested before they were able to finish building an actual destructive device. Now, Akil Davis, assistant director in charge of FBI's Los Angeles Bureau, said group members were determined to detonate explosives at multiple businesses at the same time at midnight on New Year's Eve. They envisioning planting backpacks with improvised explosive devices to be detonated at multiple locations in Southern California, targeting U.S. companies. Now, the companies were not named, but they indicated that it might have been Amazon-type logistics centers. Now, that's interesting because I understand Amazon might be working 24/7, but New Year's Eve, to do this, and so I just want to, learn a little bit more about what the motive was, who they wanted to target, why they wanted to target, why Amazon. Is it because they expected there to be people there working Is it because they can't get to the areas where there's going to be a very strong law enforcement presence? So they're going to go to places where, but these foiled cases, I love how we foil them, but two, now we learn, where this is what people are thinking. I mean, in Las Vegas, people might be thinking, okay, well, we can't go to the Strip. You can't. I think even with the Strip, and I'm going to review some of the rules for those of you in town. I think you can't bring backpacks. You have to get there at a certain time. You can't park there, so you're going to have to park and then be bussed in. I think leaving, you aren't going to be able to leave until after the festivities. So there's rules in place, and so it shows that many people are probably thinking, well, if that's going to be too difficult to infiltrate, then I'm going to try a place that nobody's looking at. But thinking that they would be able to pull this off, idiots. But you know what? Really, it's for Palestine. Who's running Palestine? Hamas. You're trying to help Hamas? Come on. So good news. At least we had some good news from this weekend, because boy, was that it was just horrible. But be aware, we want to celebrate Hanukkah. We want to celebrate Christmas. I'm going to be in some very public places the next few weeks, and I want to be. I mean, I'm going to live. Screw anybody who wants to try to ruin my holiday, my Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's season. Up yours, I'll take you on, go to hell. But I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to hide. I know that's what they want people to do. They don't want people celebrating Hanukkah, Christmas. They want you to fear them. They want to take control. And what's the biggest revenge? Saying up yours. I'm not going anywhere. I tell you, so many people want to get their CCW. They want to have something to protect themselves. I don't blame you. But, keep in mind, like with what happened to Brown University, you can't bring your weapon. If you're at the CCW, most universities won't allow you to bring a weapon on. Now, they do that to protect others. I guess I understand why they're doing that. But if you think you're going to protect yourself in a university setting and you'll be able to stop a shooter, you can't bring your weapon. And there's many, having a CCW, I think, is very, very advantageous. But understand that there's a lot of places where you can't go, with it. And you have to rely on law enforcement. God bless them. And boy, look at how they got, tall tasks ahead of them. But well done, FBI. Well done, Kash Patel. Glad you thwarted this one. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years, stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Hi, guys. Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious, such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So over the weekend, I had two patients ask me if what they had was enough for them to then qualify for a disability so they could get a job or use that for school. And, it's interesting because having a disability, I don't wish a disability on anybody. I pray people don't have a disability. And, when you do have a disability, we, pray for strength. We hope that, medically we can support you, help you through it, and, turn it into a positive. Life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So you don't feel stigmatized by that disability. But it's not something you actively seek, right? I'm having and I'm seeing more and more patients say, look, if I say this or if I can't do this, does that count? Almost like they want one. Now, I do have to credit society from the decades and centuries of somebody having a disability, making them feel like they're useless, it being such a handicap, of such a vulnerability. And I do credit society with, look, we're going to give you advantages if you have that. That's a good thing. I want our veterans who were injured to be able to get a job and be some of the first in line to get a job. I want individuals that used to be stigmatized, because they, had an eating disorder or because they have obesity or because they, have dyslexia. I want them to be able to still get a job because it used to be, no, we don't want you. We don't want you. And they struggled and then they became homeless. So I do like I love that we have the ADA Act that provides protections. But as with everything that was supposed to be there, for individuals who are vulnerable, you have individuals taking advantage. Now, are they all to blame? Well, remember I told you about a year or two ago when DEI was at its most, shall we say, prominent, that when you fill out a job application, it's still like that. They ask if you're disabled. And many people who have not been getting jobs when they've been applying on LinkedIn or applying on Indeed or any of these that have not gotten a job after hundreds and hundreds of applications, some had asked on our show, can I say I'm disabled? I have irritable bowel, or I have ADD, or I have thinking that might be able to get them the job. So, I see all sides. If you can't get the job, nobody's even looking at you, and you technically have some medical conditions and you never called that disability. Will that at least allow the AI robot or AI bot to allow you to advance, to then hopefully be able to, get an interview at least? And that's kind of where we're at. I have a family member of Latino descent. And she has a child. And when we were talking about colleges, I go, well, that's great. Because of the Latino background, now your child will be able to get into a university and scholarship. She's like, Dahlia, everybody's Latino. Everybody applies for that. You don't, and so, so the more it gets used, the more it gets neutralized. And so my concern is now that you have individuals claiming they have a disability when they really don't have a deep disabling disability, you're ruining it for people that really have a disability. We spoke about, there was a report, Brown University and Harvard University. This was a bombshell report reported by The Atlantic, where reporter Rose Horowitz found that there's a huge surge in accommodations, where 20% of the student body of Brown and Harvard University are registered as disabled. As at Amherst College and Stanford University, the percentages are 34% and 38%. Now, what does being disabled do to your application with college? Well, one, if they are trying to have diversity, then they don't want to be accused of, we've really ripped on academia for a lot of what they've done in terms of high pricing and all that. On the other end, though, I do have to, play devil's advocate, where these universities will get nailed and lose funding if they look like they're not being diverse. That's the way it was before when Biden was in power. And so they then don't want to cease to exist. So if there's somebody that says, yeah, I'm disabled, they're going to be like, good, okay, that's another number of the disabled column. You see how many people with disability we help? So they're trying to do it to cover their ass. Now, as a student, how does that help you? Well, one, you could get in, probably a little easier, to the college. But two, they have to provide accommodations. If you have a disability, they have to provide accommodations. If not, they're violating the Americans with Disabilities Act. So that accommodation might be you need more time on your test. You need more study time. They can't fail you if it's related to your disability. Now, the ADA was designed for individuals with disabilities where, if you, let's say, couldn't, let's say you were in a wheelchair. The employer has to have a bathroom that you could use with the wheelchair. Otherwise, you can't use the bathroom. You have to, and the employer can't say, sorry, the bathroom's for non-wheelchair people, and then you have to end up quitting. The ADA is supposed to protect people from that. Let's say you can't stand and do certain things, right, because of your back or spinal stenosis or whatever. The employer is supposed to come up with accommodations so you could still do your job, and you could do it still effectively. Where some people have taken advantage is, well, I can't do any of this work. I can only do 1/3 of the workload. Sorry. And then the employer is like, well, okay, so what do I do? I now need to hire 2 or 3 people when, you actually can do the work. We've made the accommodations for you, but you're saying you can't. And it's gotten to be kind of a mess. And where I worry is I don't want employers to go, wait a second, if there's too much trouble and it's too costly to hire somebody that qualifies for a disability because of all the accommodations and time off they need, then, you know what, I'm just not going to hire anybody with a disability. We don't want that. And the ADA protects disabled individuals because of, for that. But when an employer is like, I can't, afford any more accommodations, I can't do any more than I'm doing, it's an issue. Now, usually the ADA says it has to be within reason. That, the employer has, so employers, if you notice, they're going to be showing, they're going to have a paper trail. They're going to show that they did, went through hoops to make sure that they did everything. They offered this, they offered this, they offered this. They're going to have witness statements. They're going to, because they don't want to get nailed with the ADA. But, it's kind of gotten to be a mess because the whole purpose was making sure individuals with a disability could still work, could still have meaningful employment, could not be stigmatized. And same thing with students. But if now, like in that one college, 38%, almost 40% of students claiming they have, what do teachers do? And somebody had asked, how does it work with medical schools? If you have a medical student that is saying they have a learning disorder, how are they going to become an effective doctor? Well, it depends on what the learning disorder is. But if they're not passing the tests and they're not learning the material, they won't be able to be a doctor because you've got to pass the boards. And I think even to pass the boards, they might do physical accommodations. Let's say, you have dyslexia, there could be audio, of the test, or, they could magnify certain things, or they could, but a medical school might pass them, but to be able to pass the boards, that's a whole nother ball. And so there's a lot of, shall we say, checks and balances in the system. And then you have to get into a residency. And for a residency to pass you have to have good patient outcomes. You can't be hurting patients. They can't. So I think there's a lot of, I don't want to use the term barriers, but there's certain milestones that have to be met. So if somebody, does get into medical school, trying to claim a disability that when they don't have one, or try to claim, well, I have a learning disorder, and then they don't learn the material, they're not gonna, they won't be able to take care of patients. I mean, so there is going to be, and I'm sure there are many individuals that are currently claiming that. But what I saw as an academician is, we work with them and we made sure that they did understand and they'd still pass the test proficiently. Now, I don't know if that's still being done, but that's what needs to be done. So, having people now that we're being told that people are faking the disabilities and this culture of victimhood, that could be a problem, especially when we need to know that people know how to do their job. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas
And a Happy New Year. All right, Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. I love this time of year. This is my favorite time of year. I live in an area, though, where there's no snow. And I've always lived in areas with no snow. Well, you know what? When I went to school in Reno, Nevada, we did get some snow. But my family always lived in the desert area, and so I kind of regret that part of it because I really want to see a white Christmas. I really love snow. But every time I talk about that, people from snow areas, Cleveland, New York, Minnesota, North Dakota, say, you didn't even know what you're talking about, girl. Shut up. Like, what do you mean, shut up? Snow. They go, do you understand how difficult it is to live in snow? I don't care. I think it's difficult living in the desert. Scorpions, rattlesnakes. I'm always tripping on gravel, and I just love green and white. Just the snow. That's just me. I've always been fascinated by it. But there's health warnings, when you're living in snow, and it's some serious stuff. And one issue that really people are challenged with is the shoveling. And I've never really had to shovel a sidewalk, or I've never really had to shovel, shall we say, anything per se. And it's hard. I did have to shovel when I go to funerals. A lot of the funerals, they let you put dirt. You shovel some dirt and but that's easy shoveling. That's not snow and ice. And so, unfortunately, I don't know what I'm talking about. And we do see an uptick in heart attacks when individuals who have not been active, who are not athletic, who are not in good shape, all of a sudden get their first major snow, go outside for the first time in 9 months to shovel it, and sadly, we see the snow shoveling heart attack. In 2025, Mayo Clinic looked at just 10 minutes of heavy snow shoveling can push the heart to 97% of its maximum rate. Now, when you couple that with the cold and the increase in blood pressure, the coronary artery restrictions, the shunting of the blood to put more effort on the heart, that's a problem. Now, according to Fox News, there's no official age that is too old to shovel, but some cardiologists recommend that individuals over 45 should exercise more caution to lower their chances of a cardiac event. Okay, well, how many people, the average, shall we say, millennial or Gen Z might not necessarily have a home and snow to shovel. They might be in an apartment complex, etc. So many, sadly, now the average age of home ownership is until your 40s. So that would be almost everybody not shoveling. And you need to shovel because if somebody slips on the ice, that's on you. You're liable. So you have to. Not to mention you need your car. You need to be able to get out. I have one friend who lives in Anchorage, Alaska. And he was able to, he has money though, he was able to in his driveway put heaters. Apparently you could heat your driveway so that the ice never forms. That's pretty impressive. That's pretty cool. That's bougie. That's really, really bougie. I don't know how much something like that cost, but he did it like 20 years ago. So if it's still working, well, So what do? You're getting some major snow. You're not in shape. Well, whether you're shoveling snow, whether you're having sex, whether you're deciding, you know what, I think I want to train for a marathon, you should always have your heart checked. And what the big problem, it's not that you're shoveling snow. It's that you have, for months, built up or years, built up a vulnerability. You should be able to shovel snow, have sex, chase your dog, play with your grandkids. If shoveling snow could give you a heart attack, then what happens when you're wrestling or running around with your grandkids? I mean, you need to be able to trust your heart. So now, as opposed to any other, I mean, it's good as any other time to get your heart checked. Who's at risk for heart disease? Well, if you're a male over 40, female over 50, estrogen is protective, but still, we do see an uptick in women when they're menopausal. If you have a family history of heart disease, if you yourself have had a cardiac event, you're kind of at higher risk. If you have high cholesterol, if you have high blood pressure, if you have diabetes, if you smoke, if you drink a lot of alcohol, if you're overweight, if you're stressed, if you are a male who is 5'2", shorter stature or below, that could also put you at risk for heart disease. If you haven't gotten an exam, just get yourself checked out. And most doctors will consider a stress test. So the reason why we do a stress test is your initial exam of your heart involves an EKG, an electroencephalogram, where what we do is we put stickers on your chest in various areas around the heart to pick up the electrical current. The electrical current then gets displayed. It's a brilliant methodology of how they were able to look at the heart. And they studied so many rhythms that if you are, shall we say, losing blood flow to part of the heart because you have a clogged artery, or if you had a heart attack, there's going to be a change in the way the electricity appears to be distributed. And so over time, we learned how to identify that. We could also look at your rhythm. If your rhythm is abnormal, if it looks like your rhythm is not based on your sinoatrial node or an impulse that starts at the atrium and goes down to the ventricles, but if your ventricles are somehow doing an aberrant beat, and we see premature ventricular complexes, that also suggests there could be something going on. And so a very simple, cheap, painless, non-invasive test is your EKG. But your EKG doesn't tell you everything. So people will say, gosh, Dahlia, I want to get that machine where you see that guy outside in the parking lot and he says you could have that machine where you stick your two fingers. Those are nice because they do pick up your beat, the rhythm, but it's not as comprehensive as a 12-lead EKG. And then you do a 12-lead EKG, but it doesn't tell us how clogged your arteries are. When you're doing an EKG, you're at rest. You're lying down. You're not thinking about your mother-in-law. Well, we need to know what happens when you're stressed. So we could either run you on a treadmill, have you walk really fast or run on a treadmill to be able to check your heart, or we could have you do the sit-down test. Let's say you have knee issues or, other orthopedic issues, where we could raise your heart rate and stress your heart. Now, the reason why we do that is we want to see what happens when your arteries constrict. So let's say you are 50% clogged or 60% clogged. That could be a problem when your arteries are constricted. You might not notice it when you're resting, but not everybody's at rest. If you're shoveling snow, if you're chasing your grandkid. So we do a stress test to see if you're clogged. We could also do an angiogram where we inject dye, and that'll also take a look and see if you have clogging. And then we also can do CT calcium scores where we can CAT scan and see if there's calcific plaquing in your artery. So there's a lot of different things we could do that can, and then if we do identify that you're clogged, we could open those up. We could do balloon angioplasty, use a little balloon to open it up. We could put stents in there. If we really think that the artery is completely clogged, we could do a bypass. So there's so many things we could do, but we got to get you before you get that heart attack. My father never wanted to see the doctor. He had a widowmaker, drop dead of a massive MI. And if he would have at least gone in and gotten checked, something might have, been able to be done. And that was the early 2000s. So, shoveling snow isn't the problem. The problem is you might be vulnerable. And so, somebody shoveling snow, for the first time in months because they aren't very active, that could stress the heart. So one is try to exercise all year long, make sure your heart can handle it, get your heart checked so that when you do have to shovel snow, you're in shape. The other thing too is have a backup plan. Who can help shovel your snow in case you need it? And I'm no expert in living in the snow, but I'm sure there are people that have figured this out. And there's some workarounds, but be careful. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out. Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I don't know if many of you saw this video, but for those of you trying to figure out what to give as a Christmas bonus to your employees, you got a tough act to follow. Because Taylor Swift is giving, I think, $197 million Christmas bonus to her touring crew after completing the Eras tour. Now, this is pretty, that's very generous, very cool. Very cool of her. But, for those other individuals who work in the industry, they may not want to work for anybody else but Taylor Swift. Pretty smart on her end, but she did make millions upon millions and millions of dollars of that tour. And so I think her crew does get credit. I haven't watched the docuseries. I might. I'm just, I like some of Taylor Swift's songs. I mean, I'm not a Swiftie like everybody else seems to be these days, but I am kind of interested in music and the backstory of it. I just get bored by some of these things. Like I could barely watch a Meghan Markle thing. So, but apparently she is going to give them a lot of money. Now, other individuals are concerned, saying she is setting an impossible standard. I mean, she made a lot of money. So giving $197 million to bonuses to everybody. This includes truck drivers, caterers, dancers, musicians. That was my first thought. Did she forget anybody? Because, it's not just the dancers. There's a lot of people that worked on the show, but it looks like she got them. From what we understand, she got them all. And so good for her. That's nice. Now, from what we were being told, according to Rob Shooter, this conversation with insiders, he says, if you think Jennifer Lopez, Mariah Carey, or Katy Perry handed out six-figure bonuses, they said, forget it. And so, there's always haters and there's always critics. So you would think everybody would be like, oh, this is so cool of her. But instead, they're like, oh, gosh, no. Now what drama are you causing? So I think she made billions, right? Or her wealth is now $2.1 billion. And so giving, a multi-million-dollar payout for bonuses, I think is wonderful. So nice. Good for her. But what about for you and I? We got employees. What do you do? It's So I would always give bonuses, but it would be tricky when you didn't have a lot of money. And so, but you still made it work. This Christmas Vacation movie that I think was done in 1989 or 1990. Christmas Vacation, people watch it now, and it doesn't necessarily, it's not as relevant these days because but it worries people because they're like, wait a second, his bonus, Chevy Chase's bonus in the Christmas Vacation movie was supposed to be enough for him to build a pool in his backyard. Well, nowadays, if you want to build a pool, that's tens upon tens of thousands of dollars. And I was watching that last year going, wow. And I asked my husband, see, my parents they were always poor. They never worked for a company. So we never got Christmas bonuses. We just we're never in that, we never had an employer that gave us a bonus. So I asked my husband, I'm like, your dad worked for a corporation. And what were the Christmas bonuses? I mean, were they thousands of dollars? And my husband said, I don't really remember, but I know it was significant enough where we needed it. It's like we would only be able to, either pay rent or move forward. It was something we needed and relied on. But it was that significant. And so, you watch these movies now and people are thinking, okay, well, I need tens of thousands of dollars for my Christmas bonus. And I don't think the average employee is getting that. They might get $100, $200, $500. Some big corporations might, give their suits big bonuses. But, for the average small business owner, that's kind of tricky. And so, what I always recommend is being very, very open and honest with your employees. And sometimes what you could do is you could give them a raise. And I think a raise is a great Christmas bonus. One is because now they're making more money for the long term, and it's more than what a Christmas bonus would have been. And, giving somebody a raise on Christmas, might be very, very well received. Plus, it allows you to divide that up. So let's say you don't have $500 or $1,000 right now to give every employee. But if you give them a raise, they're going to be getting that money over time, and that makes it a little easier on you. Be honest with them. If let's say you don't have that kind of money, let's say you are on fumes. You could talk to them about paid days off. Say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give you guys a couple paid days off. Which does cost the employer money, but so there's It's not easy. It's not easy, especially if they're expecting thousands of dollars. And mind you, that Christmas bonus is what many use to get that step up or to buy medication or to, things aren't like that anymore. Now, why not? Why don't we have big fancy Christmas bonuses anymore? Well, before, what the Christmas bonus was one, thank you for your service. Thank you for your loyalty. And you're with the company for a long time. Well, nowadays, people are quitting or they're leaving. One year we gave some real nice Christmas bonuses and somebody left that afternoon. They got their Christmas bonus and left. And so we were like, they were only there for like 2 months. But we wanted to be equal. We wanted to give, you don't give somebody less of a Christmas bonus. We wanted to give everybody, Christmas bonuses, and we didn't want to, short anybody. So we gave and they got their Christmas bonus and left. And so over time, if employers are like, wait a second, you're just going to take the money and run, that's a big loss, especially if you just started working here. Which is why I kind of like the raise idea, because then it can, it can extend. Now, some people say, but we can't afford raises. Well, take a look at how much you would spend in Christmas bonuses. Now, what a lot of employers did was to do a party where your Christmas gift was, we're throwing you a party. Free alcohol, free food, you could bring your spouses. And that's nowadays, to throw a party, that's tens of thousands of dollars. And if you ask the average employee, they're like, I'd rather you just give me a couple $100. I don't need to go to the party. So it's not easy. But if you are struggling, I would sit down with your employees and say, look, I want to give you something for Christmas, but we're not in any position to do, multiple thousands of dollars. So here are some options, and what works for you. Now, what I also like about the raise is then they're engaged, because a lot of people struggle with keeping staff, and so why do you lose staff? Well, because somebody can make more money elsewhere. So at least if you're given a raise, that already starts to kind of mitigate that. Also, for them to continue to enjoy that, they have to obviously work to enjoy it. So that also helps. But giving raises, now you're paying extra for Social Security, Medicare. It's employer tax. Your workers' comp goes up. See, a lot of things are based on your payroll. So the more you have with your payroll, the more you have to pay, which is why a lot of people try to keep their payroll down, and then that hurts employees. But look at paid days off. You live near Disneyland and say, you know what, we're going to take you guys all to Disneyland. We'll do a Disneyland day. I mean, there's things. Oh, that's expensive though. But if you think there's something, you got to do something. Whether it's giving, one thing that I like to do, like with my friend's office staff, is, a lot of times with Christmas, everybody gets a basket. They all get these fruit cakes, just nuts. So what I like to do, I like to bring a big basket of soap or tools or something like that, where everybody can take a little something and take it home. This isn't for my employees. This would be if I go to give a gift to another office, because then everybody gets to take something home, and they like that better than just food and nuts. 1-877-DOC-SALLY. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.